What's going on, man? You just said you're a late riser. What's happened?
All right. Well, it says I have sometimes I have insomnia, and I think I was doing pretty well with it. But given that fact that the show is coming up, my creative flow usually happens at night, like late at night. So I was up, up last night, and I'll probably be up late tonight and the rest of the week to the show, putting together the final touches of the show. Right now, I'm putting the structure of the show because the jokes are I have no more room to actually work on the jokes anymore because the shows that I'm doing now leading to the show, the shows that I'm doing are pro shows, as in no open mics.
Mm-hmm.
So so I'm just structuring it, just trying to make it make sense to have it flow. But there's some jokes that don't have any relation to any other of the jokes. So I gotta find a way to put them there because they stand alone. Usually the jokes have like 3 or 4 jokes that that have the same topic. But there's like 4 or 5 jokes that are just like on their own that have nothing to do, like the unwanted stepchilds of the set, and I gotta find a place for them. So that's the point I'm at right now.
Dude, so you notice that a lot, do you? Like when you're coming up to a pretty big project or a really big gig, is that when insomnia kicks in for you, or is it just a random thing that sort of kicks in now and then throughout your life?
No, I've always had insomnia, and I take melatonin for it. I do pretty well, but this particular time I'm actually using the insomnia to my benefit because I always write late at night. I just can't. I don't do anything in the daytime towards my comedy other than maybe watch the show as I'm getting ready to do a show. But as far as like when I'm getting creative, it just comes at night. That's when like my I guess my circadian rhythm is. I guess they say it's at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, fuck that. I'm in bed by that time.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. I find the same, brother. Like I feel as though my creative juices kick in late at night as well. Like I've got a little boy here, I've got my wife, and when they go to bed, every now and then I go, oh, some peace and quiet, go make myself a cup of tea, put a good instrumental track on and just sort of either go through a couple of jokes or try and write a couple of new ones. But it's something I've tried to flirt with a little bit. Like I've tried to navigate, all right, what works best, what feels best. And for whatever reason, right. I'm a bit of a night owl as well. Only problem is I've got a baby that wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's not quite as late as what it was. But yeah, I find that it's really interesting when I talk to comedians. A lot of us seem to find that creative outlet comes in the late hours of the night.
Yeah, I was talking to Billy Styles. You know Billy, yeah?
Yeah, man, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I was talking to him yesterday, as a matter of fact. We're talking about this. He goes, Madonna does the same thing too. I go, really? She goes, yeah. He goes, Madonna goes to bed at 5 because she writes. She starts drinking around 12, and then she writes at 5. I'm like, that's pretty cool because me and her have the same exact birthday. We're both born August 16. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, okay, that made me feel much better about this awkwardness that we have about living our lives and what we do.
Couple of Leos.
Guess what it is. You see that curtain right there?
Yeah.
I don't fall asleep until in that crack I can see the crack of dawn. That's when my body goes like that.
Every day?
Yeah. Every night.
Wow, man.
Every night. And sometimes I'm lucky. I'll be able to go to bed at 4. But that right there, once I see like the sun or the dawn start coming to that little part right there, that's when my body goes, okay, it's time to shut down. And then I wake up around 2 or 3. I still get 8 hours in. So if I go to bed at like 6 or 5 or 6, I'm up at 2. So I just woke up like not too long ago.
So he's still sleeping well. Actually, Paul Sharplin, the bloke in the, you know Paul, obviously.
I love Paul.
You've been at Gorilla. He's got a weird sleep schedule as well. I was talking to him the other day, and he was saying to me that because of he's still working and he's trying to do his comedy around that. And he was saying that one of the things that he does is he's on this weird, like 4 hours on, couple of hours off sleep, which I thought was really interesting as well. But it's strange, like creatives, for whatever reason, in so many different scenes, the sleep topic is one that I'm fascinated about, just because of the fact that I always know there's going to be something interesting there, because it's not just going to be like, all right, I'm in bed at 8:30 every night and I wake up at 5 or 6. No, it's going to be like, no, I was out gigging really late, then I came home and wrote, and then my brain started going, as a matter of fact, I could make this better. I could figure out where these little bits fit in. Yeah, but that's interesting.
I wish, man. What's saying?
I was going to ask if that's something that you've sort of navigated for your whole life, or if it's just since you started doing comedy.
Yeah, actually, it got really bad because when I was touring heavy, like in the States, like it was touring every week, and you're flying through different time zones, you know? So what's like 8:30 for somebody else is like midnight for me, you know? So it's like, whenever I like look at television or go on YouTube or do any type of research, light research that is on sleep times, people say, well, go to bed by 10, be in bed by 8. I'm like, that doesn't really apply if you're frequently in different time zones. If you're in different time zones, you know, it doesn't make any sense. It's I go about what my body feels. Like when I was doing cruise ships, man, that was like weird because I fly to, like, let's say Numia for um a gig, and then I have to wake up and then get off in Fiji somewhere, you know, and like it's just like it really messes up your time. So I just listen to my body and go, this is the time for me, because I'm not I'm not I'm not what's what I'm looking for? I'm not station. You know what I'm saying? I'm always somewhere, and the time I'd have to go with the time that's there. So when someone says, okay, be in bed by 10, I'm like, okay, let's say I'm in, I don't know, Miami, and then I'm supposed to be in bed by 10, but I fly to LA, and now it's 7 o'clock because they're 3 hours behind, you know? Or same thing here in Perth. Do I still have to be in bed by 10 if I'm there at 7? It's like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It depends on where you are, the time zones. So the time zones alone make me feel like I sleep when I'm ready to sleep, and no matter what, no matter when I sleep, I make sure I get in 8 hours. So if I go to bed at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, like I said, I'll get up around like 2. So if I go to bed around like 9, that never happens. 10, it never happens, because we are night owls. We perform at night, and then when you perform, you have all that dopamine and that surge or that rush, and you just can't fall asleep. You know, you get that shit going on, so it's hard to fall asleep. My wife, she falls asleep on the dot. She could have coffee, and then boom, just gonna knock out. I'm like, how do you do that? She's like, I admire it. She's like, we're in the living room, and she's like, okay, I'm going to bed. And I'm like, where are you going? Already? It's like, yeah, it's 11:30. I'm like, fuck, you're so lucky you can do that. You're so lucky you can just go to bed and get up. So it's hard for us, man. It's very hard for me. It's hard for me to maintain that. But I try to take power naps. And I've like studied the times of power naps. If you take a power nap between over 10 minutes, less than 20, your brain is switched on. If you go like half an hour to an hour, you'll be like groggy for like half an hour to 30 or to an hour to or until an hour before your brain is switched on. But the best time sleep you can do is get that 90-minute sleep power nap. If you get 90 minutes in, when you wake up, you're fresh. And I've had all those situations happen to me, man. All of them. When I was doing cruise ships, I would like if my show was at 10 o'clock, I try to be in bed by an hour and a half before that, or 2 hours before that, so I can give myself half an hour to fall asleep. And if I didn't fall asleep in time, it was hell trying to put myself together, man. Sleep is so important, man. It's so important, especially as you get older. You know.
Yeah. How old are you now?
43.
43. Man, and you've been doing this comedy for, did you tell me 26 years the other night?
This year's 26. Yeah, I saw when I was 18. This year is 26. But my show celebrated my 25th anniversary because I was supposed to do it last year, but you know, lockdowns and shit. So I kept it as that. And besides, I already printed all the posters. I'm not gonna just reprint posters and put 26. I might just keep it 25, man.
Awesome.
Keep it 25.
Awesome, man. Now, I'm so excited I got you before you film this weekend. So the big special, how you feeling, man? You're in good form. I've been at the Comics Lounge more than I ever have recently, and I've seen a whole heap of you performing and emceeing, and man, you've got the crowd in the palm of your hand, which has been awesome to witness. But what's the headspace like going into it? Because I know are you just doing the one recording?
One shot, man, like Eminem. You only got one shot. The recording is expensive, man. You gotta understand, I'm betting on myself. I'm doing this all myself. As far as like, I'm financing everything. I'm paying for everything myself. And then to have to do that more than one time would cost me a lot more than what I would want to actually pay. You know, I'm already well in the thousands for this special. from like the set, the way I'm making the stage, and the the camera crew, um, uh, lighting for a bit. I got Brett Blake.
Yeah, man.
He's like a lighting genius. Brett's not he's not only a comedian, but he when Hollywood comes down to like film the movies and stuff, he's the guy to go to help out. Like Hollywood.
Really? Wait, Brett
Yes.
Blake was the guy. He was on last night, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's emceeing this week. I was he was supposed to MC last night, but he had a trial show, so I MC for him. But I'm middling this week. So tonight he's in. We're together. We're me and him are in for the rest of the week, and he's MC and I'm middling. But I was talking to him, and he just like yeah, man, I can help you out. I was like, oh my gosh, you helping me out with the lighting is perfect because he knows exactly what. Can we cuss?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, of course.
He knows what the fuck he's doing. Nah, he knows what he's doing. And to have him as to get on board was a blessing as well. And he's giving me the mate rates for certain lights, but his labor, he's doing it out of the kindness of his heart. And that's really it makes me feel a lot safe knowing that he's like, I saw his special and he knew exactly how to do everything perfectly. I'm like, man, I wish I could do that for my special. And then I manifested it, man. Put it that way. I manifested it because I was thinking, oh, the lighting thing was a thing for me. I was hoping my camera guy would have more or less what to do, and he did. But it just so happened when my camera guy showed up for the meeting, Brett was there as well, and they both started talking. And when they started talking all this technical stuff, and I was like in the middle like this, and like it's like, so do you use the f/45 27 2000 lens? Oh no, actually, with the this and that, all these words, and I'm just sitting in the middle like, yeah. I have no idea, but I'm loving the conversation because I know that these two are like just didn't know exactly what's going on. And then Andy, the sound guy, he gets in and they both start having this like stuff that I know I have no idea what they're talking about, but stuff that like I'm supposed to have. They had everything all sorted. They figured everything out and they handled it. So that was great. So that's that portion of it I'm really happy about. Right now the headspace is look, man, I've done everything I could do for this show. As far as like my diet, like when I first booked the show and I was getting ready to do it, I was weighing 102. I started going to the gym. I started eating healthier, and yesterday I weighed in at 88 kilograms.
Very nice, man. Geez, 14 kilos drops not mucking around.
Nah, man. I'm after this is what we did. After this, I'm going straight to the gym. But in doing that, I've actually adopted that lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Like intermittent fasting and, a low carb diet and just like it just, and then I really got into it and I'm like, oh, good. It's good to have goals because that is actually good for your health. Not everybody can look like you, Tyson. We have to work for it. You know what I'm saying? But it's one of those things where yeah, man, I've been going to every show I can. I don't give a shit if it's one person in the audience or if it's whatever, if it's a shitty crowd or if it's just comics. You have to get up, man. You have to get up. I think there's a notion that people think that just because like I'm prevalent at the lounge, I do a lounge a lot. That's like my home club and that's the biggest club in the country. And it's like, that's like a room that you go to, if it's on your resume, people will book you for other places as well. It's the top, it's like of the food chain when it comes to comedy. But that doesn't mean I always need to be there because I have to go work out before I can get there, before I get back there. And if I'm always there, then I'm always showing. There's a time to show, there's a time to grow. You know what I'm saying? I show at the lounge. I don't grow at the lounge because the lounge is there for me to show my growth. Open mics are there for me to grow. So you'll find me at all types of like places, like people are like, what are you doing here? I'm like, working on my new joke, working on my act. And I've been doing that on steroids. And we had the lockdown. When we had a lockdown, I really had time to reflect and think about what opportunities I had that I missed out on. And predominantly it was the open mics and how important open mics were and how important it is to get up at least 3 times a week, and how important it is to cherish those times. And I said to myself, if we ever get out this lockdown, it wasn't when, back then it was every day. So I was just saying, man, if we ever get out this lockdown, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing this, I'm doing all these things that I wish I could do, that all the simple things that that was taken away from us. And when the second we got a lockdown, I haven't looked back, man. And I see it every time as a joy and a pleasure, and opportunity, and a privilege, because you don't know what you have until it's gone, man. And when that shit got taken away from me, I'm like, fuck, I'm not letting this happen to me again. So that is a part of it, and I'm trying to let go of the anxiety of it, trying to let go of the stuff like ticket sales, and the atmosphere and the lighting of the show, and the filming and all that type of stuff. When you do everything on your own, it's really, put it this way, my 26 years, this is the most important show I've ever done. This is the most important show I've ever put on. The show that I've worked on, not just jokes wise, but like everything around it we're discussing, like the filming of it and all that type of stuff that I've worked. I've filmed a special before, but I didn't take it seriously because to me it was just another show. And because I was touring already, I was making good money, I was touring, and to me I was like, oh, that's right, I have the show I gotta do on Sunday or on Monday, and they're filming it. And I got on there, and I was just like, oh, it wasn't anything to me, because I knew the next show I had was already taken care of. I was with Pablo, so I was already set. Now I'm on my own, so this one has to work. This one has to be the one that is my coming out to Australia thing. And I just got my citizenship last week as well.
Yeah,
so that's like, that's another plus as well. So everything is just coming together, and I'm watching it come together, and I'm like, wow, this is actually happening. This is actually happening. When I was having that conversation between those two geniuses, I'm like, this is actually happening. And like, that's going through my mind. They're talking, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. So I can't believe this is actually happening. This is the most important show to me. It's so important. And I just hope people have a thing of saying like, you'll do fine, you do good, or, you're always funny. And I'm aware of that. However, it could be the show that I bomb. And I think about that every time for every show that I do. Because the audience could not be that happy, or that comedy savvy. There's so many things that could happen. It happens sometimes. You can't predict an audience, so you have to hope and brace yourself, not for the worst, but to be able to withstand and change the situation should it be not a situation that you want it to be. This is also the first time I've ever done a show where people are coming to see me versus coming to see the comedian. Because all the shows I do is to come in to see the comic. Don't give a fuck who it is. Just want to see a comedian. This time, they're like, we're coming to see actually Fils-Aime, because we saw him and we want to see what he's got. So that's just saying that right now, I feel a load on my shoulder. So that's what I'm thinking about, man. I've been training for this for about since late November, and now it's going to happen in what, 3 days. 3 days it's going down, and I just really hope that all the work that I put in, and all the thought and all the thinking I put in actually comes to fruition, whatever that fucking that word is.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. It's so exciting. But before we talk too much more about that, I wanted to pick up on something, because it was something I wanted to talk to you about specifically, and that is about how you're saying that the Comics Lounge, it's your home club, it's where you perform the most. But man, I see you often out just putting in the groundwork at open mic comedy with your new material, seeing what works, seeing what you want to let go of. And like that discipline element of comedy is something that I'm really fascinated by. Like I'm fascinated in discipline in all areas. I come from a background in middle distance running, and obviously to be any good at middle distance running, that discipline, that commitment, that training and consistency, it's just crucial. It's like the foundation of performance. There's no good runner who doesn't do all of that stuff. So the longer I spend in the comedy scene, man, like I'm new. I'm a baby compared to you. I've been here for 3 years. And already though, you start to see a correlation between the people who are doing things like what you're doing and the work ethic that they're bringing out. And I was just curious to pick your brain around that work ethic, because obviously in a scene like comedy, we can get some pretty crazy people out there in terms of, how often they're gigging, how often they're performing. But in terms of being able to do that and maintain that over such a long period of time, like is there something in you apart from just a love of comedy that gets you out of the house at 8 p.m. because you got another gig tonight? Or is that just a discipline that you've developed over time? Like, I was just curious to unpack that a little bit with you.
But you gotta understand, when I first started at 18, like my folks were like, you can't do comedy living here, because you have I got 3 sisters and a brother, And my one sister's a doctor, married to a doctor. Another one's a teacher. I got another one that's a pastor, married to a pastor. And my brother is like an engineering genius, and he has his own businesses. And here I am wanting to do comedy, and they're like, "You can't do that in this house." So they kicked me out of the house, and I lived in my car for the first 2 years. So I was like, but what I did was I worked at the comedy club and the improv, and in the daytime telemarketing, and at nighttime I was a food runner, which is like kind of like what a waiter does. And I watched the shows, and I'd watch the shows, and I try to get up on my first show. There was a competition, and I won. And then that was every Monday they should do. And then what I would do is I'd try to go there every Monday, but I had a system. I'll sleep in my car, go to my girlfriend's house at the time, and take a shower. Her mom was cool. Her mom was like, "You can't live in here, but you can take a shower." She was pretty cool. So I'll take a shower there. My clothes were in the car. She's like, "I don't want your clothes in my house because that's like moving in." So my clothes are in my trunk. And I was wrinkled all the time. Nothing was ever fucking nothing was ever like washed. I mean, or like ironed. Something, and that's why I was washing. I tried to sneak it into the laundry at the club, and I would sleep in the garage of the comedy club or in the car and in front of my girlfriend's house in her lawn. You know, when you're 18, you're like, "This is fun. This is whatever." And so, and then it was all because of the love of the opportunity to do comedy. You know, and it wasn't a situation where I felt like I had to make it. It was that I was good at it, but it was fun. It was so much fun, and it was just fun. It was, and that's what kept me going. It was the fun of it, and then it no longer becomes fun when you become professional. When you become professional, it becomes work because it's now a career. So now it's sustainability. When you're an open micer and you're trying to get on, it's fun because there's no responsibility. You know what I'm saying? You just have to, you can just go on stage and perform. But when you have to make money off of it, then it becomes a certain type of work, kind of stress. You have your most fun trying to make it. You don't have your most fun after you make it. Making it to me is to be able to do comedy and live off of that. And that's what happened to me. So, and when I started touring with Pablo for a while, for a couple of years, and all those things happened. But the discipline that I have now is because I started slacking on my discipline. And I started getting everything that I not wanted, but I didn't have to worry about gigs. And then the cruise ships would happen. So I didn't really have to worry about gigs. You didn't see me much in the open mic scene when cruises were happening because I was always gigging for money. And then when the cruise ship stopped, you just had time to reflect. And I became, and during the lockdown, and I became the person that I was when I first started doing comedy, with the element of being professional as well. So that's why I'm back in these streets, because I realize how important it is. I realized that this is what you have to do to do it. So I just made it. I became a fan of comedy again. You know, like Chris Rock says, you got to become a fan of comedy to be a comedian. So I became a fan, and it's just a way of life. It's not a duty. It's not a job. It's just a way of life for us, man. It's just what you got to do. I never want to stop doing it. You never want to stop performing, especially if you're good at it. You know, like it's enjoyable. It's like you get to show off. You get to, you know, people are there to support you. So it's, if you see it as a duty, man, and you see it as work, it's not gonna be enjoyable. Like, I enjoy this process. I enjoy the love of doing this. I enjoy the fact that, you know, I'm going to the gym just for this. You know, sometimes when I look at the weights, I'm like, fuck, this is pretty heavy. Then my brain goes, how bad do you want that show? I'm like, oh, fucking.
Here we go.
Oh, this for dick jokes. Dick jokes. Dick jokes. Dick jokes. You know what I'm saying? You'd be amazed what you got to do, what you do, just so you can perfect saying a dick joke. Dick jokes is the way of life. So.
Oh man, that's so funny. That's such a good way to put it. All this hard work just for a dick joke. I love it. Bro, how long were you on the cruise ships for? That's a pretty interesting thing. When I first got involved in comedy, I had no idea how good money comedians made just you know, traveling around on ships and telling their funny dick jokes every night. Was that like something you did for a couple of years, or you made a real career out of it?
I made a career. Well, look, when I would be in Australia, it's not like America. You see, in America, you have 50 states, right? And each of those states, there's at least a minimum of 5 comedy clubs, which is actually being not being like generosity on the other side. Like, it's more than 5, but a minimum of 5, right? So 5 times 50, what you got was like 500, right? Or 250.
250, yeah.
Yeah, 250, yeah. So you have 250 clubs in the country that you can perform at. So you can and these are weekly clubs. So you can constantly work. I mean, if you do like, you could do less than half of that and pay your rent for the whole year. You know what I'm saying? That's not the case over here. Over here, there's more clubs in one state in America than there is in the whole country. So you have to really learn how to adjust. And to make it here as a comedian, you got to be on television, radio, whether you're working behind writing for radio or writing for television, or whether you're on camera. Corporate comic, which is the comic that does a lot of corporate gigs that goes to like Telstra, Optus, and does their functions and stuff like that. Or you do cruise ships. Corporate, I did a little bit of radio and television. I don't know what's going on there. I guess I'm not famous enough for that. But cruise ships was the way to go. So yeah, I was doing cruise ships heavily. Like, when you do a cruise ship, you're away for the company I was working for. You do like a minimum of 7 days. There's an option to do 4, but I was like on a 7-day one. So a minimum of 7 days, like 14 days. And I was doing 2 a month, which is a lot. So I was doing about 24 ships a year. You know, I think the average comic does about 6 or to 8, but I was just like, this is how I'm going to make money. And so I was doing like, and I was never on land. And so I would miss out on all the opportunities on land, but I was like, fuck that. I'm paying my rent and I'm paying my bills, and I was making great money on the ships. Like, they pay you great on the ships. So it was just my, like, it made me comfortable. And you get comfortable, that's less work you have to do. Because I'll get off a ship and I'll come back home and there'll be a gig. Like, you want to do a gig? I'm like, nah, I just want to sleep in and chill, man. I have to be in an airplane in a couple of days to fly overseas to this place and then do the whole process again. So to me, it was all about money. It wasn't, and that's what it was. But when the lockdown happened, I realized, man, I got to really build a name for myself so I can actually start touring on land on my own and get my own thing. Because currently there's no agencies or managements who are looking at me, or maybe they are, I don't know, who are like, who are doing the job that I need them to do. So I got to do it myself. And I'm a firm believer in God. So I'm with God Productions. That's who manages me. So that's the ships was hard, a lot of work, man. A lot of work, as far as, like, they say you get paid for the travel, you don't get paid for the show. You do one show, but you're packing and dealing with immigration, consistently dealing with immigration, like, all the time. And that shit was like, it almost stifled me from getting a citizenship, because when they saw my citizenship, to be a citizen, you can't leave the country for more than a certain amount of time. And they go, well, you left the country for at least 80 different times. And I go, no, I left the country, but I was like just overnighting it so I can get on a ship. And I had to explain to them, and that they almost didn't give me my citizenship, because they're like, oh, I said, I know what it looks like, but I'm not leaving and like fucking off for 3 or 4 months. It's only for a day. Because what happens is when you leave, when you fly out of a country, there's record of it. You flew out the country. But when you like take a ship from Melbourne and you get off in Noumea, there's no record of you leaving. And they go, fuck, how'd you end up in Noumea? And I'll go, okay, I took a ship there. And when you take a ship, there's no record of it. So sometimes it looks like I just like, well, explain to us. I'm like, well, obviously I got there. So, and that shit was crazy. I would go to the fucking airport in Noumea to check in to leave. And then they go, we can't check you in. I'm like, why? Because it says here that you never left Australia. I said, how the fuck did I get here then? I'm right in front of your face. How did I walked here? I'm not Jesus Christ. I can't walk on water, bro. Like, how you think I'm just like doing this for the hell of it? Like, I'm just coming to Noumea? Why would I come to Noumea when I live in Australia? And it's like, it was so frustrating. So they have to call immigration go, okay, what ship was he on? What's the number for the ship? And all this shit. And then they'll let me on the ship. This happened at least 20 times. And those 20 times popped up in immigration. That's why I hired a lawyer. I had to get a lawyer. I'm like, yo, I'm getting a lawyer for this shit. Cause like, this shit it's like usually you just sign, it's free to apply for it, to become a citizen. And, you paperwork and that's it. But my situation, I got a lawyer, and thank God that I did, because he like took care of everything. He showed me what to tell them and talked to them for me and had to explain to them. I was like, this is, and I also, at the meeting, at the citizenship test, they do 2 tests. You have to, they do a physical test and they talk to you like, they're fucking like, like they try to see if you're fucked up in the head. And then if you do, they go walk through that door. You can take the actual test. So in the meeting, they were, that's when they were giving me the bit of a difficult time. They were very nice about it. But my my lawyer was able to I forgot what I was gonna say, but my lawyers was able to help me out and figure it out. So uh, 'cause I knew that would be a fucking problem, and I knew that I have to explain that because they don't want you out of the country for more than 3 months because they think you're doing something shady. And I was not out of country for more than 3 months. I was out of country for like a day, and those days in about 3 months. That's like
Just
90.
Yeah, but just looking at the records, they were starting to get confused. Dude, that's so funny. I love that you're in Noumea, and there's like, sorry, there's just no evidence that you ever left to get here. Like,
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Well, what do you think happened? Like, how did I? It's not fucking Star Trek. Nobody beat me up over here, man. Like, and I don't want to be in your shitty country anyway. No, I'm saying they're not shitty. They're not shitty. But it's like I want to go where there's electricity. You know.
It's a fair request.
Well,
It's a fair request.
yeah.
Dude, what was it like the comedy scene in the US, as you sort of just established, was like it's a fairly intense. There's so many options in terms of where you can gig, when you can gig, how much you get paid to gig. That would have been a pretty big thing on your mind coming to Australia. Was it just trying to figure out how the comedy scene was going to work? Like, was it a bit of a culture shock in terms of the comedy scene when you got here? How have you navigated that part of the move?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't even know. I think I just got lucky because when I came here, you have to have something to offer if you're not a famous comic here. So I'm billed as an international act. So everywhere I go, I can headline anywhere because I'm an international act. So that's what saved me here. I started doing the lounge and a lot unknowingly didn't know that doing the lounge was such a big deal to outsiders because like when I would book other shows and they would ask for a bio, or they will create one for me, should I say? They one of the things that goes, he's a does a lounge, he headlines a lounge, and that was a credit to them. So to them, to me, that was like I was already with the big league when I got here. I just had to write new material and get and keep it together. So and then I had to realize, oh man, I can't tour as much. Like I can't. It's like what you got one here that pays very well, which is the lounge, maybe two, I guess, with Republic and Rubber Chicken, if you want to include those. But and we got a couple in Sydney. You have maybe one or two in Perth. Like you got like less than 20 clubs that actively perform, they work every week in the whole country. When versus like just Florida alone has 20 clubs. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really learn how to navigate. And then you have these like shows you put on these. That's why you have to do these pub tours, these pub crawls. You go to, you do these tours at this pub and this brewery. You got to do those to manage, but that's not weekly and it's not consistent unless you have one. You have four of them you do every month. That's monthly. There's a way to do that, but you have to be very smart about it. And people do that a lot. They'll do one show here, they'll do one show there, and that show is monthly. So they have their audience coming in. So you have you get a bit of an earn, as you guys say. So I didn't want to go through all that. I didn't want to be in the admin portion. I don't like doing the admin of this portion. So I just want to perform. So I just been lucky, man. My phone never stops ringing. I never stop getting messages. So I'm always fortunate that I'm a big believer in energy and vibrations and manifestations, man. And one of the tricks is I feel if you feel a certain way, then that's what you're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? That's what the universe gives back to you. Like one trick that I learned was that if you want something, you're never gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? If you want something, you're never gonna get it. Let me explain that. Wanting is the feeling that you're putting out there. So the universe gives you the feeling of wanting it. So you're stuck wanting that. That's what you're feeling. What you should feel is like you already have it and you should choose it. Then the universe reciprocates that. You choose it, you get it. But being in a state of want keeps you in a state of wanting. So you never get it because you always want it. That's what you're feeling. That's the energy you're pushing out. So that's the energy you're getting in. If you feel like you have it already, if you feel like you're choosing to have it, then that's what you get. It's like people who feel like they never have enough money. That's what happens to them. They feel like they never have enough money. That's the energy they put out. Me, I know I don't feel that way. I feel like I have enough money. I feel like I have enough shows. I've always felt that way. And shows and money, it just keeps it comes in. It comes in. And that's I'm a firm, staunch believer in that. So as far as shows go, I don't think about like I'm running out of shows to do. So only time I thought about that was when the lockdown happened, because it put me in it put me in my body, and I wasn't in my mental, I wasn't in my spiritual mind. So I was like, fuck. And it was a scary place to be. But I had to break out of that. And then things started happening again, you know? So I don't concern myself with the opportunities. Opportunities are concerned with me.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that's an awesome way to look at it, man. That's cool. I like that you said before as well, you're a firm believer in God. And I think that's something that our culture, not just our culture, I mean, I guess Western culture as a whole has sort of lost a big belief in, or lost an appreciation for. And it is interesting. Like whenever I speak to someone who does have a really solid belief in God, it's always interesting to see how lightly they walk. It's there's a certain weight that's lifted off your shoulder, I think, when you're like, all right, no, I've got to, and regardless of the language you use for it, I think when you're aware of the fact that there's something far greater than you at work, behind the scenes, who does have your best interest or does have your growth at heart, it's like, all right, well, I can get upset, I can get stressed, I can get worried about, what I can't see right now. But as you say, like walking in faith, I guess you could call it, it's a pretty powerful step. It's nice to hear that as well, because it's a fairly obsessive scene, the comedy scene. And I know a lot of people who are miserable about it because they've been doing it 15 years and they don't feel like they're at a place that they deserve to be. And it just doesn't look like an enjoyable or happy place, or happy way to live your life. And so you hear from someone like yourself with an attitude like that, you go, because man, there's not many times, I don't think I've ever met you where you haven't had a smile on your face. And, you could be going through a tough time, but you always got time. You always got a smile. You're always walking, you're up and about. Yeah. And I've been curious about what what that is, because it's a feature that stands out, I think, from a lot of other people in the scene.
I would look, man. I rarely talk about it, but since we're talking about it, I will. I rarely talk about it. Maybe 2% is because I don't want people to start looking at me like I'm some kind of weirdo. But 90% is because you don't really have to talk about it. People will see it in you. Like they see like God in you. They see like the Christ in you, whatever. Look, I know I curse, I know I smoke, and I know I live. People think that if you believe in God, you're supposed to be like this powerful, like all like spiritual, this and that. I do it in a realistic way, like, because I'm human. You know what I'm saying? But like, okay, I'll tell you what I do on the weekends. I have what I call my Sabbaths, right? Because I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. I'm not considered Seventh-day Adventist, but I keep portions of it that actually resonate with me. So if I'm not performing, what happens is every Friday night I do this. Even when I get home from my show from Friday night, every Friday night I do this. And my wife, she's cool. She doesn't let it bother her at all. But when I come in, I turn off everything that has nothing to do with God, from Friday night to Saturday night. The second the sun goes down, if the television goes on to those they go on to those 4 Christian stations. I have a YouTube playlist that I watch. Everything's but gospel music and like spiritual music and that type of stuff. If I watch a movie, it's about God, and I just go into this world where I shut myself off from the rest of the world from Friday night to Saturday night, and it's the most peaceful experience you can ever experience. I feel like I'm not even in the world anymore. I feel like I'm in this space where like it's just me and God, me and God, me and God, me and God the whole time. And then when Saturday night comes, I switch it off. I step back into the world. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll watch what I want to watch. I'll do what I want to do. But from that time, from Friday night to Saturday night, that's my time to detach. People meditate. People go on sabbaticals. My thing is having my Sabbath is very, very important, because it just works for me. I can't describe it to anybody else. It works for me. It's very mindful that it's very not mindful. It's very important that you have some kind of time to detach yourself from something that you're doing consistently, or else you get burnt out. And because I do comedy so much, it's always on my mind. I'm so consistent with it. I feel like I have to pull away and take a break to recharge. Some people go to the beach. Some people do what I gotta do. Me, my thing is I listen to gospel music, and I watch preachers, and I look at different things, and I pray a lot. But that's like my personal. That's how I keep myself grounded from going crazy, because in this business you can go crazy. In this business you can see a lot of shit that will make you pissed off, or that'll bother you, but you have no choice but to have something that keeps you grounded. And for me, that's keeping God in my life, in a sense. But I never talk about it. You won't even know it unless I told you. Because it's not. Some people feel like you're preaching to them, or you're you're better than them, or you're trying to be better than them. You're holding them down. So I don't say shit to people because they think, oh, you think I didn't say I was better than you. I'm just saying I didn't even say anything. That this is like how I live my life. You do what you want. I don't judge anybody. Like I stopped drinking, but I still hang out when people are getting drunk. You know what I'm saying? I stopped smoking weed, but I still hang out with people smoking weed. I kind of stay my distance because I don't want to get on my clothes. And I come home, Mark goes, "Were you smoking weed?" I'm like, no, I was hanging out. So, but like the main thing is you don't judge people, man. You don't judge anybody. Like you're nothing to judge somebody else. Not even like crackheads in the street. You don't judge them. You just let them be. You don't know what their journey is. You don't know what they went through. You don't know what's going on. The main thing is to be respectful and nice to them. I try to be respectful as possible to people and try to give them the same amount of respect. But in this business, man, you'll notice that this is prevalent in the open mic scene. It doesn't happen in the comedy, like the comedy elites like Hugh-Z and all those big guys. The big guys, they're fucking chill as shit here in Australia. Chill. I mean, the most cool, like down to earth. It's the fucking open micers that have a stick up their ass. Like I've seen so many open micers that I've helped out personally in one way or the other when it first came out, and then like they get some kind of like play or get some kind of like, when I say play, some kind of like attention or some kind of like, you know, a little something, and they switch and they fucking think that like they're the shit. And they have this attitude towards you, like, you know, like I book comics for my room. They walk in, they don't even say hi to me. And then they find out that it's my room. They go, oh, hey. It's just like, it's so disgusting. I'm like, you guys are, but you know, they're young. Jerry Seinfeld says, however old you've been doing comedy is how old you are. So if you've been doing it for 3 years, you're 3 years old. You know what I'm saying? These cats have been doing it for like 4 years or 2 years or 6 years or 6 years old. I'm a fucking adult. I could drink. I'm at drinking age in comedy. I'm 26 years old. So it's like, and I'm older, so I see these cats. I'm like, you guys are fucking stupid. Like, and I hang out with some of them. Some of them try to give me advice. I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, try to tell me, like, you know, I'm like, you want to know why? And it bothers me because I hang out with them, and I'm nice to them. And when you hang out with people like that, if you're nice to them, eventually they'll show themselves. They'll show the true colors. They'll think that they're on your level to the point where they start telling you what to do and shit. And it's like people really sometimes mistake my kindness for weakness. Like it's always, there's nothing more truthful than that statement. People will mistake your kindness for weakness, and no one does it better than fucking open micers. Open mic males specifically. They fucking think I'm like some kind of, because I'm there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm always willing to give advice. I'm always willing to help out. I'm gonna just hang out. Just when, you know, I don't have to do that, but some of them, not all of them, but there's a few of them. I'm like, and they just think fucking, okay, he's one of us. No, I'm not one of you. I'll never be one of you because you don't even have 2 minutes of good material. Like I'm around because I'm cool, and it fascinates me when they think that they could do that. And meanwhile, you have the guys like Hughes and all those big guys who are chill as shit. You know, like I have these guys like Tommy Little and all the big guns that I meet. They're fucking the chillest guys, and they're respectful. They don't have that fucking weird. I don't understand it. It's a backwards thing. The people who can have the rights to fucking be a dick don't, and the ones who have no reason to be a dick become a dick just because they got a good 5 minutes or a good 7 minutes, and it's disappointing, you know. And a new one pops up every time. I hear when they talk shit about me. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that to me? Like, I've never done anything but be nice to you, but I'm still nice to them. And I'm still, you know, cool with them, but I'm gonna have to limit my my appearances around them because these people really think that I make them feel big just by being around them.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I make them look good. Like, if we go out in public in the comedy scene and I'm hanging with them, they look better. I look, if anything, I look like shit. I'm hanging around a fucking shit comic or a comic who doesn't have anything. Yes. So for them to turn around and act like fucking they're like, you know, like above me or to talk to me in a certain way, I'm like, man, these motherfuckers don't have any respect. Like, you know, like, and they're not being rude, but they're not aware of what they're saying when they talk to me. Like and I let them, like, I just play stupid. I'm, oh, really? You think I should do that, huh? Oh, okay, I should. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I should do that. Yeah. Okay, cool. And I want to tell them, hey, man, how many bills have you paid through comedy? Yeah. Oh, sorry, you haven't. Yeah. Okay. Can you even buy a hamburger from the money you made in comedy? So like, but that's the ego I have to just put away. Your ego is not your amigo. The ego will fucking crush you, bro. So So fuck the open micers. Yeah, I said it. No, I'm just kidding.
that'll be the intro to the show. No, it's,
Yeah.
it is interesting, man. Like I've actually noticed that myself, dude. As I said, like most of my experience now is in the open mic scene, and like rubbing shoulders with a couple of these guys is like it's great a lot of the times, but I know there's a competitive nature to it at times when people are fighting for gigs, and people are trying to get a little bit ahead of the other comics. You can see it, you can sort of sense it as well. But man, I did a regional gig once, and I was super nervous because it was me, Dave Thornton, and Johnny Katz, and I'd never met these boys before.
Yeah.
But I'd seen Dave Thornton on TV, and I'd seen Johnny crush it at the Comics Lounge, and it was about a year and a half ago, and I was new to the game, and I was like even newer than I am now, and I was green, and I was nervous, and I was going there. I was like, I wasn't necessarily thinking this, but maybe it was at the back of my mind. Like, who the hell am I to be here with these guys? Anyway, Dave walked in with Johnny, and mate, as soon as he walked in, Dave goes, "Hey, Tice, you're on the list with us, yeah?" I was like, "Yeah, man." I was nervous because I'd seen him on TV, and we're having a dude. We're speaking for 40 minutes. He didn't have a bad word to say. Everything was encouraging. Everything was, dude. Like it was just it was a completely different vibe. So it's interesting that you say that's a common experience, because I left there, man, knowing that these guys were well and truly above me in terms of how many bills they'd paid, in terms of how many people they'd performed in front of, and the fact that Dave had the time, the fact that Johnny had the time. I go, man, like it's a different experience that I've had. Not to say that all my open mic experiences are bad, not at all. Like 95% of them are amazing. I love the guys there. But to walk away from that experience and go, these are a couple of the biggest names in the Melbourne comedy scene, and they're treating me with that kind of respect. It was it was something I sort of took a mental note of, and I definitely appreciate it as a newer performer.
Yeah, that's Dave was great for that, man. Dave was whenever I see him, we're always having conversations about nothing. It's just a conversation about nothing. We're just talking in the green room. You could just tell that we're vibing, we're gelling, and same thing with Little and Hughes, them. They're because they know what they have. Successful people don't have to act successful. It speaks for itself. Same thing with like funny people who are good at what they do don't have to do things like, look, I feel like if you're not as talented as you are on stage, your fucking marketing game needs to be fucking on steroids, because that's how you're gonna get it. And that's a lot of people do that. Me, I made the mistake of just saying I'm funny, so I don't have to worry about marketing myself. And I just realized, maybe a couple of months ago, like, okay, I have to have a social media presence. This is the way of the world, so I gotta fucking get on social media. It's not just about being funny anymore, because any person can go viral and then say, okay, I'm a comedian now, So, but there are comics who do go viral and they're actually comics. There's comics who, like, Neil Cohactar.
Dude, I don't.
Neil, you're the Neil Cohactar. He's like really big, and as far as like a social media presence, but he's actually a real comedian. He's a guy who actually does stand up, but he's like big on a social media platform. So he's an anomaly. There's people like him who have that, but then there's a lot of people who just have a social media presence, but they don't have any. They're just trying to get into comedy to because they have a presence, and it's like, that's cool, that's all right, but I feel like, and I'm probably gonna get some hate for saying this, but it'll be hate by people who fucking aren't, I'm not concerned about. But there's this thing where there's this energy, and there's just this way of life right now that's being lived when comedy, that people are going to miss out on what's really important, because you can get famous before you get your set together. Back then, when there was no social media, you had to be a strong comic to be even looked at, to be able to get on television, to get famous. But now, if I do the right 6 to 7 second video, that's great. Boom, I'm famous. I'm good. Now I can get people to come see me, right? But when people come see me, they can't. They're I'm not gonna be able to perform to the level of a true professional, And and that's my audience. So they're there to see me. But when I go to a different audience, I'm like, fuck, gotta figure this shit out. So what happens is, they never figure this shit out, but they have the consistency of having their own audience in front of them, so they're spoiled in a sense. And when you're spoiled, you don't really grow anything. So they're missing out on the actual true roughness. They're missing out on the true, like, you know what I'm saying, getting their feet dirty. You know what I'm saying? Instead of getting their feet dirty, what they do is they have they get a pair of shoes and they walk the walk. You know what I'm saying? And it's smooth. But what happens is the path sometimes gets fucked up and they're afraid to get their shoes dirty. You know what I'm saying? But and meanwhile, there's motherfuckers who can get their feet dirty and still walk the path. These motherfuckers have clean white sneakers and they're walking the path, but they see a fucking dirt or try to walk around because they become real. They're not as tough. I don't want everyone to be a comedian that needs to have my audience in front of me. I don't need my audience. I need the people in front of me. I don't give a fuck where you're from. Because I've toured like so far 18 different countries. I've toured, you know, like from Scandinavia to all over Europe, you know, Australia, New Zealand. Fucking, I went to Lebanon a couple of years ago. It's all about connection with the audience, man. Connection with the people, not connection with the people that you already know. And then fucking, it's just like being funny around your friends. They're gonna like you already. Now, I may be a hypocrite when I say this, but I'm gonna experience that for the first time Sunday. There's people coming to see me, but that's different because like I'm filming my special coming to see me, and I have that in mind. So I'm taking full advantage. I'm doing jokes that I know that aren't as funny, but because they like me, I can get away with it. So that's a different story. It sounds hypocritical, but I just feel like we're in a dangerous position. Not dangerous, but we're in an unfortunate. Not unfortunate. We're just in a position where you can be subjective however you want to see it, but we're in a position where if you get famous before you do comedy, and you can't really, and if that keeps happening, this industry is going to be weak because the industry will actually pick up people who have that ability, because all they give a fuck about is selling tickets. All they give a fuck about is packing their rooms. So they find out that you're someone who has a strong social media presence and you can pack out a room. You don't have to be funny. You just fucking, they'll get you on and they'll start making money off you, and they'll promote you to do all this shit for you. And I know I'm gonna get hate for saying this, but it's the fucking truth, man. It's real shit. It's not like this game isn't about facade. It's not about fucking being fake. It's about stand-up comedy. I think about like Richard Pryor. I think about Dave Chappelle. I think about Chris Rock. I think about these guys who do stand-up comedy versus people who are just trying to get in for fame, and it dilutes it. But they're young. And when I was young, I just wanted to be famous too. But then I realized this business, you can make a great living without being famous and just do what you got to do. But over here, I guess this is what you got to do. So more power to them. No hate on them, but
no, dude, I know exactly what you're saying, man. Actually, it's something I've spent a fair bit of time thinking about this. I listened to a guy well before I got into the comedy scene by the name of Seth Godin. He's a blogger. He does like a daily blog post, and he's from the world of marketing. And one of his key points that he constantly comes back to is, hey, you can be the king of marketing, but in the end, have you got a product? Like, have you got a product to sell? And his whole point is sort of like what you were just saying then, that so many people, they've got the audience. They've got a whole heap of people who are paying attention to their minute and a half video, whatever it is on Instagram. They come to see the show. And as you say, it's like, okay, so their videos are great, but they don't quite back it up on the stage. And I know exactly what you're saying, because I guess it's a tightrope balance. You want to get that fame as a young person, especially. You want to get that exposure. But so often, I guess it's easy to get caught up on the wrong platform. Go, all right, well, social media is where it's at. I'll put more time into this than actually refining my comedy. And exactly. I don't know if you've heard of Awaken with JP on YouTube. He's got like 2 million people who follow his page. And he just does silly little skits. And dude, people love him in his skits. And he's a stand-up. I don't know, and I far out, man. Like the amount that he would probably earn through his videos and the exposure that he's got, I can't even speak to that. But he's I've watched some of his comedy, and I'm like, okay, so I think your strength is actually your YouTube videos. Like I think that's where your real strength is. So I find that interesting, man, to try and navigate that balance between, all right, exposure and actually refining your process. But for you, your process is all right, hey, I'm a comedian. I'm going to refine this part of my game, and anyone who's in the room, I'm going to make them laugh. That's the plan.
That's all. That's what I got into. I got into stand-up comedy. I didn't get into social media. I got into stand-up comedy. I'm a comedian. I'm not a social median, whatever the fuck you want to call that shit. You know, it's like that's what it is. You're a social median. You're not a comedian. So it's like, to me, I'm old school. You know, like once I'm old school, I was 18 when I started. I was just as young as some of these cats. If not, I was younger than when these cats started. So it's like, I've been doing comedy longer than they've been alive. You know, when they were still in their dad's balls. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not a thing where this shit's not, it's not real. If you want to be a giant and you want to have potency, man. You want to be potent. You want to have a legacy. You want to have a foundation. And they're missing out on the point because, and the reward is the fame that you get, the notoriety that you get. You climb there. But what happens when you get the notoriety, you don't appreciate what's going on. And when you don't appreciate it, now your product that you're giving to people is shit. And what happens 9 times out of 10, you'll be really big, right? And then you'll get fucking hungry guys who are opening acts. And these opening acts will fucking destroy the stage. And you get on there and then fucking you're subpar because fucking, is subpar the right word for this?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah,
okay.
subpar, not at the level that you should be.
Yeah. And what happens is the audience goes, fuck, the opening acts were really good. And this motherfucker here, I like him, or I like her, but the opening acts were way much better. And is that what you want? Is that what you want? You want a hungry motherfucker to come steal your shine because you didn't put in the work you should have put in? You know, get out there in the streets and fucking grind, man. That's what this shit is about. It's a grind. It's a hustle. It's not even a hustle. It's a grind. It's a fucking work. So technology's fucked that up, man. But you know what, man? More power to them. I'd rather be the guy that you're scared to follow than the guy you want to follow because you know fucking you look better. So that's that goes to the people who think that social media is like the king, which is, and in essence it is. I see what they're saying with the marketing. I get that they're marketing. They got to market. But you focus on marketing when you're not funny, or when you're not as powerful as you are, because you got to fool people. You got to fake it till you make it. But the thing is with comedy is you can't fake it on stage. You can fake it off stage. When you get on stage, it's the truth. You ever seen Seinfeld documentary, The Comedian? He says it himself. He's like, you know, I come out to all this big ass clapping, but I still got to produce. So when I'm doing new jokes, the artist doesn't understand that I'm doing new stuff, and they go, "Oh, he's not funny no more." It's not that. He's going back to the drawing board. You know, he's getting that process done. If you don't follow that process and you're constantly like doing your audience and doing your thing to a specific audience, you can make money off that and live well, and that's great. But comedy is about being funny in general, universal. You know, you want, but not if you're making money, living your life and all that, and it works for you, that is good. It's great. But we're talking about stand-up comedy as not a business, but as an art. When you make it a business, that's one thing. I'm talking about the artistry of it and the potency you have in the artistry. You know what I'm saying? Like it's up to the artist. I know everything art is subjective, but at the end of the day, you want to be on the majority of the subjective, not the minority of it.
Yeah, it's such a great point. It's such a great point, man. Dude, reflecting on you starting at 18, you just reminded me, I don't know if this is even a true story, but someone told me the other day, and I was like, man, that is such a funny story, especially because of the platform that this guy has. But you at 18 in the comedy store, rehearsing your stand-up set in front of the mirror, and Joe Rogan.
Oh, Joe Rogan.
Is that a true story?
It's a true story.
What happened there, man? That's so. This was
the improv. I think I'm like 18 or 19 at the time. Joe Rogan, because I was telemarketing in the daytime. When you telemarket in the daytime, you gotta understand the club is open in the day, so the acts would fly in and they will stay in the condo or the hotel, depending on how big they were. You know, if they were like just a regular headliner that didn't have that much pull, they'll stay in the condo. If they were bigger, they'll stay in the hotel. And they're there in the daytime, and they will come in and they'll talk to us and hang out. So I got from Dave Chappelle, I got to meet a lot of comics that way. They come in how the numbers are, how this and that. So that week I happened to be it was Joe Rogan's week. Joe Rogan was in the show when he played Joe the Mechanic. And I noticed because I was one of the telemarketers promoting the show. Like, yeah, this week we have Joe the Mechanic. You won 10 free passes to come see the show. We used to do all that type of stuff. So right now I think about it in hindsight, that was a great opportunity. But back then I was just like a kid. So anyway, and the manager goes, "Hey, can you do a spot tonight? Because one of the features is gonna be late. So maybe you want to do 5 minutes to give him more time." I was like, "Oh fuck yeah!" So I went. I telemarketed in the day. I saw Joe. "Hey, what's up, Joe?" He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And how the numbers are. Talking to him normally, and then went to my girlfriend's house, took a shower, changed my clothes, came back for the show that night. And I'm in the mirror, and I'm going over my act in the bathroom. This is the improv. And then he walks in, and the mirror's right here. I'm in front of the mirror. The stalls where my hand is right there, right? and I'm going over my act, and then he turns around and goes, hey, now mind you, his hand's on his dick. You know what I'm saying? Because he's taking a piss. And he goes, what are you doing, man? I'm going over my act. He goes, dude, don't do that, man. It's unreal. It's unreal, bro. And I just stood in the mirror. I had no idea what he meant, but I'm like, Joe Rogan told me it was unreal. And ever since then, I never looked in the mirror when I was going over my act. Never, ever. And it took me a while to figure out what he meant. But that shit was crazy. So that's one of the many stories that I have with like some of the popular comics. He goes, it's unreal. It's unreal. He know his boy Joey Diaz, Coco Diaz. We used to hang out together. We used to do a shitload of drugs together, like ecstasy and shit like that. And we smoked. I remember we did because he used to live in Miami. I remember we did a show in what was it? It was Little Rock, Arkansas. We did a show and then we fucking got a bag. No, this was El Paso, Texas. He was headlining and I was the feature spot and we stayed in the same condo, right? And I want to get some weed. And what happens is in El Paso, there's a rule. You go into the cupboard in the kitchen, open it up, there's a bag of weed, right? If you finish that weed, you gotta make sure you replenish it for the next comic. That was the rule in that particular room. So we go there wasn't enough weed. So we got a bigger bag. We like a big bag, like fucking big bag. I got some blunts and stuff. And back then, a lot of non-black acts didn't smoke blunts. They used to put papers. But Joe was like, Joe D was like, fucking, yeah, fuck out, whatever, man, I smoke a blunt. So I got a pack of blunts. And we're smoking in the living room, watching television. And fucking, we finished when my head would be fucking like, oh God. She's like, come on, man, let's go. Another one. I'm like, fuck. And I don't want to disappoint the guy, but man, this guy fucking, he's like, God, I think we must have smoked like 3 blunts like per night after the show. Every night, fucking another one. I'm like, fuck, Jesus Christ, man. And we talk shit and shit. Yeah, man, he was cool as shit, man. That whole crew they're just, see, that's another thing I'm talking about. Like, big guys, just cool as shit, man. They're cool as shit, man. They're just fucking, they're just on a different level. Man, when I first started doing comedy in Miami, there was only like 4 comics. And then so there's an open mic every Monday. There's only like 4 or 5 comics, right? And there's only 1 club. And then by the time I left, when I toured in Pablo, it was like maybe 18. Now there's over 300 comics. 300 trying to fight for three clubs. This shit is just saturated. I'm like, man, I got in. I got up. When it was fucking. I'm glad I got in when I got in. Even around now, there's a new comic every day. I never heard of this person. I guess that we're making it look so easy. Everybody feel like they can do it, which is cool. So it's just saturated now, which is great because it keeps the game alive. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about as well. It's like you can't be the best comedian. Imagine if you were the only funny comedian in the whole world. Where would our industry be? When I see a comic ripping and killing, I go, that's great because people that are watching that know that comedy is great and it can be done. And they're gonna come back and watch more comedy, and hopefully it'll be me next time on stage. If every comic was horrible except for you, people wouldn't go out. Do you really think that you want to be the best? You got to be careful when you think about when you try to behave like you're the best, because you want to be one of the best, but you can't be the best. Comedy is subjective. You want to be one of the greatest, but you can't be the greatest. And whenever you see a comic getting their shine on and they're fucking doing great, and a real comic, be happy for them because they're helping your industry out. They're helping you out indirectly. They're helping you out. If a comic comes to the lounge and destroys it, that's great. People come back to the lounge, and I get to come back to the lounge. Comic goes to open mic and kills. That's great. People come back to and when I'm there, they'll see me too, right? So you have to be very happy when you see comics shining. When they're getting their shine on, that's great. That's comics though, like real comics or people who are trying to do comedy. If it's an open micer that has a great set, be happy for them. That jealousy factor needs to go. You can't. There's no point in being jealous. There's no point in fucking having any type of this competition within yourself. That's another thing that Joe told me as well. I never told this story. He goes, bro, the competition is within yourself. He told me that a long time ago. He just fucking dropped dimes, just told me like what's going on. And now look at him. Fuck. I wish I can get on his podcast. He probably won't even remember me. You know what I'm saying? Because it was just one of those. And then I saw him again. My parents flew from. I was living in California. My parents flew from Florida to California, and that's a big deal because my mom has a fear of flying like me, and she surprised me. My mom's a hardcore Christian, doesn't watch any television, barely any television, and they were there to convince me to stop doing comedy, to come back to my mom was like, hey, I bought you. My mom has several houses. I bought a house. I'll give you a house. Let's come back and let's try to do something different. Let's just switch you in school. That's what the plan was, right? I go, all right, I'll think about it, mom. And she goes, I go, listen, I called the improv, the Hollywood Improv, because I'm in with them. So I called the manager, listen, my mom's in town. Can you give me a spot? So, oh, of course, sweet, no problem. So they gave me a spot. Now, we're driving from my house, like that Saturday, we're driving from my house to my dad's driving, and to the comedy club, the improv, right? This is Hollywood. They've never been to Hollywood. They don't understand it, right? They don't know what it is. So we're driving, and I said, Mom, for some reason, I don't know how the conversation came up, but she's, I asked her, she was telling me, she goes, I don't watch much television, but there's one show that I watch, and I love it. It's called Fear Factor. I go, yeah, Fear Factor. She goes, yeah, they're eating all this stuff. She's just laughing in the front row. She's like having a good time. She's laughing about it. We get to the Hollywood Improv. It's a long ass line, and my parents, like, they get in line. Go, no, I'm one of the comics. You can come. So we pass the line and we get to the front because I'm one of the comics. And they're like looking at each other like, oh fuck. We get there. Who's at the bar? Joe Rogan.
Yes. My
mom doesn't watch anything, but she watches. I'm getting chills talking about it, but she watches Fear Factor and she knows who Joe Rogan is, right? So after I do my set, Joe's outside talking to people, and my mom and my dad are walking out. I go, hey, Joe, I'm Ashley. He goes, yeah, cool. And I say, hey, this is my parents. They watch Fear Factor. And my mom, she's so excited. My mom has a strong Haitian accent, right? She's like, yeah, listen, you do something that's crazy. And he goes, oh, so what was that, man? He goes, you're just crazy. My husband watches you. He goes, oh yeah, we like crazy stuff. So cool, so chill, right? We leave. 2 days later, my mom goes, well, I came here to try to get you to come back, but your dad goes, no, he's gonna make it. Leave him here. And fucking, they just left. Well, they didn't leave that right like that, but like, keep doing what you're doing. All because they saw Joe Rogan in their mind. That's what they see on television. And they saw me in a Hollywood Improv, and they saw me like I got in line, and then I was talking to Joe. And you gotta mind you, this is how weird is that? The only person that she watches on television, aside from all her Christian shows, is Fear Factor, and the guy's right there in her face. So she's like starstruck, and me, I'm talking to him as a colleague. So everything just changed. All the disbelief that they had in me just broke, and it was gone. And they go, listen, we support you. Keep doing what you're doing. Your dad says he's proud of you. So we're happy to see you, but stick with it. And it just everything just changed right then and there. That's my Joe Rogan story.
That is a crazy Joe Rogan story. That's so funny. And I love the fact that Joey Diaz got a mention as well. Man, I love your whole take on watching someone kill in comedy. It's such an awesome perspective, because as a if you look at it as a competitor, and this is actually something I've heard Joe Rogan talk about on his podcast, is you got to celebrate the wins of these other people, because otherwise it just becomes a bitter experience. Because as you say, it's never going to be a hey, I'm the best, no one's ever going to top me, no one's ever going to be funnier than me. It's not only unrealistic, it's just impossible. It's just not going to happen, because it is so subjective. A comedian you love, I might hate, or vice versa. And that sort of same attitude replicates with everyone who watches comedy. But to look at it as hey, this is bringing people back to the industry, not only helps the industry, but also helps your enjoyment and celebration of what it is you're actually taking part in. So that's
exactly.
Yeah, it's something that it's funny, man. Like I was watching, I see you and Johnny Cat just tear it up at the Comics Lounge, and I go, like it's easier to celebrate when it's not necessarily someone you're doing comedy with every night, but when it's someone you're rubbing shoulders with, I can see how that competitive element comes in. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. That's natural, man. And don't get me wrong, like Cassie, I tell him to his face, I go, man, I'm not trying to follow you, man. And I'm not trying to have, and I told him, so fuck, when we're on the lineup, I go, I'm not following Cassie, am I? I don't want to follow him. It's not that, I'm scared of following him, but I don't like it. I don't like following Cassie. He just fucking absorbs so much of the audience and fucking destroys. So there's another comic called Mick Meredith. I used to hate following on cruise ships. I hate following, but I'm happy for them and I get along with them, but I tell them to their face, I don't like following you because you make it too difficult for me to fucking get my footing. Not to say anything, I can follow any of the comic, but it's like just certain comics just they pierce into my soul, and they fucking really they shake me up a bit. And Catch is one of them. But I'm happy for them. So that's as far as it goes with competition. But I do understand what you're talking about when it comes to the open mic scene and them being compared, because you're young, your brain is young, you're not mature enough to be able to handle that type of stuff, because you're insecure. So when you're insecure and you see somebody doing well, you feel like fuck. I get that too sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But it's really prevalent in the fucking and that's fine. What you have to do is understand that your journey is different than theirs. Stay in your lane. Don't give a fuck what anybody else is doing. When you start doing that, man, when you start like paying attention to what someone else is doing, it chips away at your soul. It chips away at the energy that you have that you can be putting towards yourself. You gotta be, and this is something that you master. You not only have to master comedy, you have to master yourself outside of comedy. You have to master not getting into that headspace of being jealous or that headspace of caring about what they're doing and that's so well. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be smart about it, learn. Learn from your enemies, man. There's comics that I don't like. I learn from them. I see what they're doing. I don't like them. To me, my revenge or my attack mode, which I shouldn't be having in the first place, is to see what they're doing and learn that shit and master it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what you do. So the competitions, it's you see it as competition because you see it as competition. So what is your competition doing that you're not doing? You know what I'm saying? What is it? What are their habits? Study that motherfucker. Learn from them, man. But don't when you're so young, and when you're so young in this business and you start behaving that way, you're developing how you're going to be for the rest of your comedy years, and it's hard to break that habit. You know, it's even in science. You know, the shit called neuroplasticity. Yeah. You literally wire your brain a certain way by thinking about a certain way. You create these neural paths, and it starts with thought. You know what I'm saying? And you wire. So that's your soul. It starts with your thought, which is your soul, in my opinion. And if you start thinking about like eating cheeseburgers every day, right? And you think about that shit for I don't know how long, you will develop fucking plasticity, and you will wire yourself in a certain way where now you're stuck that way because now you thought about it. I gotta eat a cheeseburger every day. I gotta have a cheeseburger every day. So, and the only way to get out of that is to fucking stop thinking about it as much, to stop, because when you're wiring, you're firing that shit and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So the less you think about it, the less it becomes stronger and it becomes weak to the point it gets broken. So if you're wiring yourself you don't even know it, indirectly you're wiring yourself with that jealousy or that negative competitiveness. You know what I'm saying? Like envy is fine. Envy is great. Envy motivates. Envy helps you do great things. Jealousy is what starts wars. There's a difference between envy and jealousy. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between natural and normal. Like it's not normal. I mean, it's not natural to have that animosity towards somebody doing better. You know what I'm saying? It's normal, but it's not natural. Natural is things that you do out of love. Normal is something you do with consistency to the point it becomes normal. You know, slavery was normal, but slavery was not natural. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all those things apply in common. So you gotta be very careful when you're vulnerable in the beginning. But what you're going through is normal. You know what I'm saying? It's not natural.
Yeah, it's a great point,
it's
man.
normal.
It's a great point. It's something that's so helpful to be aware of. Like I'm fascinated in the world of neuroplasticity as well, and just your ability to get your head around your situations. And man, it's very rare. Like I hope I didn't put it out there as though it's something I really struggle with, but it's something I definitely notice. If you go up after a killer, or if you're watching someone kill and you're up and later in the night, you go, oh my gosh! Like it just, I like to think I take the attitude that, you know, like you just encouraged to actually take what works, master it, apply it, and speaking of a growth phase, like I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to get up there and actually test my material and see if it holds up. And also, like you were saying about cats here, it's interesting just to see how the dynamic of your particular show, like meaning my particular show in this instant, works in comparison to that, because like Johnny Katz is a very different style to what I bring to the stage. So it's weird, like speaking of neuroplasticity or just like mass attention, it's weird to take a whole audience here and then to come out with this particular style and go, oh, gee, like it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes just to be able to work the audience back to this particular sort of beat per minute. Do you know what I mean? It's a really interesting thing, man. I guess it's cool hearing from you after 26 years in the industry saying, hey, you're still like, there's still stuff to learn. There's still stuff to adjust to. It's just constant.
Absolutely. You know, the thing is, the more true you are to yourself, and by that, I know it's a blanket statement, but the thing is, the more you're actually, let me be more specific. The more you do a joke that you think won't work, is the more unique you become. Like sometimes you write a joke, you go, man, I think it's funny, but I don't think it's gonna work because they're not gonna get what I'm saying. So that's the joke you got to be doing, because that's what's gonna create your uniqueness. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we write jokes and we do it for the audience. We do it in a way like it's a balance. There's a fine line you don't cross. Like you want to do a joke that the audience understands, and the way, like I'll write a joke, for instance, and I go, okay, if I say it this way, the audience is gonna get it. But me saying it this way is not the way I talk. So if I say it this way and it works, I'm gonna be stuck saying it this way. And then every time I get to this joke in my professional set, I'm not gonna enjoy that joke because I've trained myself to say it this way. But if I change it to where I want to say it the way I want to say it, the artist won't get it, then I have to figure out how I can make it the way I would say it naturally. You know what I'm saying? If the punchline is, yeah, man, and he said, fuck that. That's the punchline I want to say. But the punchline has to be, and he wasn't all right with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I know he wasn't all right with that, works, but that's not me. Me is he said, fuck that. So now I have to find a way to say that, and I'll come up with, man, that's all right. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? You come up with a compromise, and that's more you, and they compromise them. So that's the key to being that. That's when you're growing. That's when whenever you find yourself in a spot where you do a joke that you know is funny, but the audience doesn't get, that's growth right there. That's when you got to figure that shit out. If you really believe in it, if you think it's funny, then there's some jokes you go, you know what? I don't think it's that funny anyway, so I'll let it go. But then there's those jokes you're like, man, I know it's funny, but they're not getting it. But I know it's funny, and then I get it. That shit could plague you for a year, month, week, however long it takes. Then one day you're having a conversation with somebody, and boom, you get it. That word or whatever, it comes out. But whenever you see pain anywhere, that's opportunity for growth. So embrace it. So whenever you're struggling with anything in comedy, that's growth. It's there to teach you a lesson, and doesn't leave until you fucking learn that lesson. And that's prevalent in jokes, man. So you have a joke you're writing, you're trying to do it, and it's not working, but you have a strong belief in it, then fucking work it out. And try it this way, try it that way, try it this way, try it that way. And when you finally get it, man, not only will you get that joke, but you would have found out a lot more about yourself. And then when the next time you have a joke like that, you'll come back to yourself and you'll figure it out. It gets easier and easier and easier. I was talking to, I think, Johnny Cash and John Doerr. Comedy, to judge your level of comedy is not being funny. It's how fast you can let go of that joke and come back to the next one and be funny. Because you write a set that's great for an hour, you have to let it go. You have to go back to the drawing board. How fast can you get back to that hour again? How fast? And the faster you can get back to the hour, that's when you're gelling. You know what I'm saying? Man. I'm not completely gelling yet. I'm almost gelling. And I'm, you know what I'm saying? Because of my laziness, because I was so comfortable with my same set. But I have to write a whole new set. So now, how fast am I doing? How fast can I get through the roadblocks? Because you're always gonna have, you're supposed to have roadblocks. You're supposed to bomb. You can't rip unless you bomb. You have to bomb. It's part of the process, man. Ideally, we would love to write a joke and have it kill every time. That's weak sauce. That shit doesn't happen, man. It might happen once every 10, 20 jokes. Oh, fuck, it worked. But usually, that's what open mics are there for. Open mics is a place where you can bomb and embrace it. It's supposed to happen there, man. You can't kill without bombing. You can't kill without going bad. And then you got to look at the variables involved. I always talk about variables. Like the comic before you're number 4 on the list, and number 1, 2, and 3 comics kill, right? And then you're fretting, you're freaking out because like you don't think your new shit's gonna work. So you either divert somehow by doing the old shit that works or not giving that much to it. You have to say, fuck that. Whatever happens in front of you happens in front of you, man. It doesn't. You have to just be able to write in. Like, and sometimes I do something as simple as I give credit to the person before me. Give it up for so and so. Yeah, wasn't that great? What that does is let the audience know you're not in competition, and it's a subconscious thing. Like, okay, he's cool, and then you start doing stuff, and then you just work it out. You have to work it out, but you can't be so afraid of bombing. You can't be afraid of not doing well. You have to get that shot the way. We call that shit. Yeah, you gotta take your lumps, man. You gotta take your lumps. If you don't take your lumps, then in the race, your shoes become untied. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want your shoes untied. So
Matt O'Neill told me, I was sitting with him before a gig one night, and I said, dude, like you're a relatively quiet guy before you get on stage. From what I can tell, you don't look as though, like you look confident, but you don't look as though it's an arrogance. I said, but when you get on stage, you flick some switch, and it's like the elements of your character turn up 5 notches. Like your relative confidence turns into an extreme confidence. I don't know what it is. And I said, like, how are you turning that on? He goes, well, you know what it is? He goes, I just don't give a shit. He goes, I don't give a shit if I bomb. I don't give a shit if you don't like me. I like the jokes I'm writing. I like my material. And I thought, hey, what a free sort of spirit to get up there with, rather than freaking out about the bombs. It's a nice way to do it. But bro, I'm well aware of the time, and I know you've got plenty on this afternoon before you get into the lounge. So I'm not going to hold you up any longer. But man, so appreciate you coming on. It's a good chance to actually sit down with you. I could have talked to you about the Sabbath. I didn't even mention that my wife and I also take a Sabbath Friday night to Saturday, but maybe part two, bro. Dude, I'm from the church world. I was a youth pastor before I got involved in the Christian in the comedy scene. So,
are you at Venice?
What was that?
Are you
not at Venice, bro? No. I'm more. You can probably tell by my hat, my tattoos, and my backwards hat. I was from a church which is Pentecostal originally, and then eventually non-denominational. But man, I've like you. There's a few things from the like we still go to church, but there's a few things from the world I really try and apply because I can see the benefit of it. And the Sabbath is. I got sidetracked. I was meant to tell you about that, but man, I fully appreciate and relate to what it was cool, you were saying about that. But I don't think there's too many comedians I've spoken to who have that in common.
No, I barely talk about it because, like, you know, I'm like, because like Scott Morrison and Hillsong fucked it up for everybody, for all of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that's why I'm like, because that's what they see. They see a guy who's putting his hands in the air, he's preaching, and he's doing all this fucked up shit to people. You know, it's like I can say that now without fear of being deported.
That's right.
But he's saying all this shit, and then, so that's how they see us. They see, like, you know, like the bad stuff of Christianity gets so fucking promoted, and it's just, for me, it's like it's an excuse for them to not do it, and they don't have to do it. So, but it's not like it's hard. That's why I don't get involved in that shit. To me, and it's a personal thing, man. Like, growth with God is personal with me, man. It's just, I'm not like your salvation is not my responsibility. But if you talk to me about it, I'll let you know. But at the same time, I'm very mindful of, like my sister's a preacher, man. In a religion that says women shouldn't be preachers, she's like, oh, all right. Not only is she a preacher, she's in charge of the whole youth division of a chapter of that state.
Wow.
Like, she's dope, and she's married to another preacher, and they both, like, they do. You know, my mom was like, she they didn't want she they didn't want to give her. She wanted to have a church, but she built a church. But with the church, there's a conference, and they didn't want to include her in the conference. So she went out, she bought land, and she built a church, and she funds it herself. She pays out of her own pocket. She pays the pastor. She pays the people. My mom's a gangster, man. You know, she was very smart. She took her money, and she does it for God. My mom talks about God 24 hours a day. Any opportunity she gets. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I sneeze, like, achoo, bless you. Yeah, speaking of the Lord, yeah, bless you. You know, the Lord does anything. Yes. I could fart. Oh, man, excuse me. You know what? I'm sure Jesus farted too. I'm sure Jesus farted too. Anything, she brings that to God. So yeah, so I'm heavily into that. I just don't. I was nice to know, man.
Yeah,
I can see that. Knowing what your personality, I can understand that too. There's just something about that. You could tell there's a certain glow or shine someone has when they have that in them. Not to say people who don't have that don't have the same thing, but you could just tell. Now it makes sense which is why the way you're saying, we always smiling, always, hey, what's going on? You're same exact. You're like the white version of me, pretty much. Yes. with less material, but you'll get that.
Yeah, that's right, bro. That was supposed to be our little secret, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Bro, man, so good to sit down and have a chat with you. I'm going to do my best. I can't promise because I could be on dad duties this Sunday, but I'll be trying my best to get down. And
did you have the kid already? We've
got a kid. Number 2's on the way, man. Number 2's on the
way.
So sort of early October. We're early days yet, but yeah, green juice and push-ups, man. Number 2's on the way.
Yeah. Green juice push-ups. I use a green peptide. My wife's a nutritionist, so I have all this like health shit. But I use the collagen peptide powder, green collagen peptide powder.
Man, I got the collagen as well. I got the collagen, but only because I got wrinkles around my eyes, and apparently it's good. I think too many wrinkles for a 35-year-old. I'm gonna have to drink a few more cups.
Yeah, you white guys wrinkle. You guys need to iron yourselves. You guys need a fucking iron.
Yeah, like, dude. I need more than I need an iron and a couple of pegs.
What kind of collagen do you use, by the way?
Great question, man. I actually don't know.
Is it ingested or is it topical?
It's you just put it in, you mix it in with your water. It's just like a couple of spoonfuls of a powder.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah. Maybe I should get the one that you apply to the skin, though. It could be a bit more direct.
Nah, it could be, but I do bone broth is good, man.
Yeah, nice.
Bone broth is good, and internally is good. So you want to ingest it more, so you can heal your body from the inside out is a healthiest way. But,
yeah. No, awesome, man. Dude, I could talk to you all day, but I know you gotta go work on that body because you got your show in a couple of days. But again,
gym,
thanks again, man. That was so much fun.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And come if this airs on time, and just comments now is this Monday, this Sunday, March 13th. And if you're watching this after then, you missed a great show.
Yeah, man, for sure, for sure. Now I'll put the audio out tonight at the very least, and depending on how quickly YouTube uploads, it'll be up there ASAP.
On YouTube? Oh fuck! Oh fuck! I know that. All right, cool, man.
All right, man. I'll leave you to it. I'll see you soon. See you, everybody.